The evening had started like any other Friday in my suburban neighborhood in Connecticut. The leaves had turned a fiery orange, falling gently onto our quiet street as the sun dipped below the horizon. I had just finished preparing dinner, a simple roast chicken with vegetables, and was looking forward to a quiet night with my wife, Emma. Life had been relatively smooth lately, or so I thought. We had bought our first home together last year, our careers were stable, and our friends often joked that we were living the American dream. Little did I know that night would shatter that perception completely. Emma had been unusually quiet when she came home from work. Normally, she'd chatter about her day at the marketing firm downtown, but tonight she just sank onto the couch, her laptop balanced on her knees. I tried to make light conversation, asking about her day, about her meetings, anything to get her to open up, but she kept giving vague answers. There was a tension in the air that I couldn't ignore. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she closed her laptop with a sharp snap, and I saw the look in her eyes, a mixture of fear, frustration, and guilt. I didn't know what to expect, but the words that followed still haunt me to this day. I need to talk to you about something, she said, her voice trembling slightly. I nodded, trying to hide my unease, and gestured for her to continue. She took a deep breath and said the words I never thought I'd hear from her. I want a divorce, but it's not because of us. It's because of my ex. I froze, the fork in my hand hovering over my plate, as if time itself had stopped. Your ex? I asked, my voice a mixture of disbelief and confusion. Emma, what are you talking about? She looked down, twisting her fingers nervously. I can't explain everything right now, but I need to fix things with him. He's struggling, and I feel responsible. I owe him closure or something. I felt a cold wave wash over me. I had always known Emma was empathetic, but this was unthinkable. The man she was talking about was a chapter from her past, a man she claimed to have moved on from years ago. And yet, here she was, willing to dismantle our marriage for him. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my composure. Emma, are you serious? You're willing to throw away what we have for him? My voice cracked slightly. We built a life together. You bought this house, we planned our future. And now you want to walk away because of your ex. She looked up, tears brimming in her eyes. It's not that simple, okay? He's in trouble. Financial trouble. And I just feel like I need to help him. I took a deep breath, letting the anger and confusion settle for a moment. Emma, listen to me. You married me. You chose me. I get it. Maybe you feel guilty or responsible, but a divorce isn't going to fix his problems. It's going to ruin ours. Do you even understand what you're saying? She hesitated, glancing away. I noticed the way her fingers fidgeted with the hem of her shirt. It's financial, she admitted finally. He's bankrupt. Lost his business. He's barely scraping by. And I just feel like I should help him. I don't know, maybe I'm still holding on to something from the past. Bankrupt. The word hit me like a hammer. Not only was she considering leaving me for someone else, but this man had lost everything. Money, stability, probably even dignity. And she wanted to throw away our marriage to what? Rescue him? Relive some kind of fantasy? I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. Emma, are you seriously thinking of leaving me for a man who is bankrupt? Who can't even support himself? Do you realize what you're saying? Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time, there was no anger, only panic. I don't know. I feel like I'm doing the wrong thing either way. But I can't stop thinking about him, about what he's going through. I stood up, running my hands through my hair. I needed to be firm, but also careful. I loved her, and I didn't want to lose her over something I felt was illogical, almost insane. Emma, listen to me very carefully. You cannot just throw away what we have for someone else. I get it, he's struggling. But you need to think about your choices. Are you going to risk everything, our home, our stability, our life together, because of guilt? She didn't respond immediately. Her silence was deafening. I could feel the weight of her indecision, the fear of making the wrong choice pressing down on both of us. Emma, I said softly, but with steel in my voice, you need to hear me. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I've looked into his situation. His business didn't just fail because of bad luck. There were debts, poor investments, and even some shady dealings that nearly ruined his reputation. You know this, right? She flinched. I know some of it. Some of it, I echoed. Emma, he's bankrupt. Completely. And you're willing to risk our entire life for him? Do you even understand what this means? We could lose everything we've worked for, our house, our savings, our peace of mind, because you feel responsible for him? This isn't just about feelings. This is about reality. Her tears started flowing freely now, and I could see the panic in her eyes. She hadn't expected me to have done my research, to have thought about the implications of her plan. I realized then that her conviction was fueled by emotion, not logic. She wanted to help, yes, but she had no idea how destructive her actions could be. You don't have to, I said firmly. We can figure out another way. Maybe we can offer advice, help him with his finances in a professional way, support him without dismantling our lives. There are options, Emma. But divorce? Walking away from me? That's not a solution. That's chaos. Her eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of guilt, fear, and something else, relief. Relief that I wasn't angry beyond reason, that I wasn't reacting with rage, but with logic and love. She nodded slowly, taking in my words. I just panicked, she admitted. I thought, maybe if I fixed things for him, I could finally feel okay about myself. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in the room begin to ease slightly. Emma, listen. You're a good person. You want to help, that's admirable. But you cannot sacrifice everything for someone else's mistakes. We'll figure this out together. You're not alone in this. For the first time that evening, she smiled faintly, a small glimmer of hope breaking through the panic. Okay. Maybe I overreacted. I reached for her hand, holding it tightly. Overreacted doesn't even begin to cover it, I said with a small chuckle, trying to lighten the mood. But we'll face it together. No divorce. No chaos. Just us, and a very bankrupt ex who's going to have to deal with his own mess. She laughed softly through her tears, leaning into me. It wasn't a perfect ending to the night, but it was a start. A start of understanding, a start of clarity, and most importantly, a start of realizing that some choices, no matter how noble they seem in someone's mind, could never justify sacrificing the life they had built together. That night, as we sat together on the couch, the streetlights casting long shadows across the living room, I knew the road ahead would be rocky. There would be more challenges, more difficult conversations, and perhaps even moments when she would question everything again. But one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her throw away our life for someone else's mistakes. Not now, not ever. The morning after our confrontation felt unusually heavy. The house was quiet, but not peaceful, like everything was holding its breath. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, yet it failed to warm the tension lingering between us. Emma sat at the table with her laptop open, staring at the screen without typing a single word. I poured myself a cup of coffee and watched her for a moment. She looked exhausted, not physically, but emotionally. Whatever she was carrying hadn't disappeared overnight. Emma, I said gently, sitting across from her. We need to talk. About him. About everything. She closed the laptop slowly, as if bracing herself. I know, she whispered. I haven't told you the full truth. That sentence alone tightened my chest. There's more? I asked. She nodded. A lot more. And it's not just about him. It's about his family, and mine. I leaned back, listening carefully. He didn't just grow up struggling, she began. His family has been broken for decades. His dad walked out when he was young, left debts, lawsuits, nothing but chaos. His mom tried to hold everything together, but she never recovered financially. They survived by borrowing, hiding problems, pretending things were fine. I exhaled slowly, and he carried that into adulthood. Yes, she said. He always felt like he had to save them, that if he failed, they'd all collapse. And now he's bankrupt, I said quietly. Completely, she admitted. Business loans, personal debt, credit cards. Everything crashed at once. The picture was becoming clearer and darker. Emma, I said carefully, you didn't cause this. I know that logically, she replied, her voice cracking. But emotionally, it's different. I watched him struggle for years. And now I see his family standing on the edge of losing everything. I could hear the guilt in her voice. Not love, responsibility. And that scared me more. Let me be blunt, I said. Feeling sorry for him is human. Feeling responsible for fixing his life is dangerous. She looked down at her hands. I think part of why it affects me so much is because it reminds me of my own family. That caught my attention. You've never talked much about that, I said. She hesitated, then finally spoke. My parents weren't bankrupt, but they were close. When I was in college, my dad nearly lost his job. My mom was constantly stressed. I grew up watching them barely stay afloat. Suddenly, everything clicked. You learned early that stability is fragile, I said. And that if someone collapses, you're supposed to help, no matter the cost. Tears welled in her eyes. Yes, that's exactly it. I reached across the table and held her hand. Emma, empathy doesn't mean self-destruction. You can care without sacrificing your marriage. She nodded slowly. I didn't realize how much of my past I was projecting onto him. That afternoon, I decided to do something I'd been avoiding. I looked deeper into her ex's situation. Public records. Bankruptcy filings. Lawsuits. The reality was worse than his emotional story suggested. This wasn't a temporary setback. It was years of bad decisions stacked on top of unresolved family dysfunction. When I shared what I found, Emma didn't defend him. She went silent. He didn't just fail, she said finally. He never learned responsibility. Someone always rescued him. And now, I added, he expects that person to be you. That realization hit her hard. I never wanted to be his savior, she whispered. But he wants you to be, I said. And that's the trap. For the next few days, Emma struggled. She tried to maintain distance, but the messages from him kept coming. Subtle guilt, emotional pressure, references to his family's suffering. Each message reopened wounds she thought she had healed. One evening, she finally snapped. I can't breathe, she said, pacing the living room. No matter what I do, I feel like I'm failing someone. That's because you're trying to please everyone, I replied. And that's impossible. She stopped and looked at me. What if walking away makes me a bad person? It doesn't, I said firmly. It makes you an adult with boundaries. She sat down heavily. I think I've been confusing kindness with obligation. That confusion almost cost us everything, I said gently. She nodded. I see that now. By the end of the week, she made a decision, not a dramatic one, but a powerful one. She stopped replying immediately. She stopped explaining herself. She suggested professional resources instead of personal involvement. And slowly, the guilt began to loosen its grip. One night, as we sat together watching TV, she turned to me and said, I don't want to save broken people anymore. I want to build something whole. I smiled. That's the healthiest thing you've said since this started. But even as clarity returned, I sensed something unresolved, something Emma still hadn't fully faced. Her past, his expectations, her family's fears, they were tangled together. This chapter wasn't just about him. It was about Emma finally seeing how close she had come to repeating a cycle she'd escaped years ago. And while she was stepping away from the edge, the ground beneath us was still shaking. The truth had surfaced, but its consequences were only beginning. The weekend arrived with a deceptive calm. Our suburban Connecticut street seemed peaceful, the autumn air crisp and refreshing, the sidewalks scattered with red and gold leaves. From the outside, it could have been any other American neighborhood. Families jogging, kids riding bikes, neighbors chatting across fences. But inside our house, tension simmered quietly beneath the surface. Emma and I had spent the past few days discussing her ex, boundaries, and ways to offer help without endangering our life together. On the surface, she seemed more composed, more reflective. Yet, I could tell that a storm was still brewing in her mind, a mix of guilt, responsibility, and lingering attachment. I had realized something critical. It wasn't enough for her to set boundaries. She needed a reality check, a confrontation with the truth she had been avoiding. And I had made up my mind. I was going to give it to her, gently but firmly. We were sitting in the living room, Emma curled up on the couch with a blanket, sipping hot chocolate. I had my laptop open, researching ways to advise someone in financial trouble, both for her ex and for others in similar situations. But more importantly, I was formulating the words I needed to say to her. Emma, I began cautiously, I think we need to talk about something serious. About your ex, and about what you really feel. She looked up, her eyes wary. What do you mean? I took a deep breath. I mean, you've been carrying a lot of guilt for him. You feel responsible for his failures, his family struggles, even his bankruptcy. But the truth is, some of it is beyond your control. And the way you think about it, the assumptions you're making about his life and our life, is harmful. Emma frowned slightly, her brows knitting together. Harmful? How? I closed my laptop and leaned forward. Let me be honest. I've been thinking a lot about this. And here's what I need you to understand. Your ex isn't just struggling because of bad luck. He's made choices. Mistakes. Bad ones. And while it's natural to care, you cannot and should not place yourself in a position where his life dictates yours. Not your marriage, not our home, not your sanity. She flinched, as though my words had struck a nerve. I didn't realize I was doing that, she whispered. You are, I said gently. And I need you to see it. Because if you continue thinking this way, you risk losing the stability we've built together. You risk feeling like you've failed if you don't rescue him. And that's not fair to him, to me, or to yourself. Her eyes filled with tears. I feel like if I don't do something, I'm letting him down. I can't ignore it. I reached out, taking her hand in mine. Emma, listen. I understand that you want to help. I really do. But helping doesn't mean sacrificing everything we have. You can support him without giving up your life. You can advise, you can encourage, you can even donate to a professional fund for struggling entrepreneurs. But divorcing me, leaving your life behind, that's not help. That's destruction. She nodded slowly, as if trying to absorb every word. I think I get it. I've been so caught up in his pain, I forgot about ours. Exactly, I said. And there's more. I need to tell you something about what I really think. Not as a lecture, not as anger, but as reality. I've been looking into his bankruptcy, his family situation, and Emma, it's worse than you realize. Her eyes widened, and I could see the panic starting to resurface. I didn't back down. He's bankrupt, yes. But it's not just finances. His parents never guided him properly. His father left, his mother struggled. He's been emotionally stunted, always chasing approval, making impulsive decisions. And here's the truth, you can't fix that. You can't rescue him from himself. Emma's hands trembled slightly as she covered her mouth. I didn't want to hear that. I thought maybe he needed me. I squeezed her hand gently. I know, you're a kind person, but kindness has limits. Rescuing him won't make you a hero. It will make you miserable, and it will damage our marriage. You have to understand that sometimes letting people face their own consequences is the most compassionate thing you can do. She sat back, eyes glistening. I never thought about it like that. I guess I was blinded by guilt. I nodded. That's exactly it. Guilt can cloud judgment. And if you act on that guilt without thinking, you risk everything we've worked for. I love you too much to let that happen. She exhaled slowly, a mix of relief and fear in her eyes. You're right. I don't want to lose us. I felt so responsible. Emma, I said softly, responsibility isn't about taking on someone else's failures. It's about making choices wisely. And the choice to protect our marriage, to be rational, and to set boundaries, that's responsible. That's strength, not weakness. She nodded again, her tears finally starting to subside. I think I'm starting to understand. I've been confusing guilt with responsibility. I thought helping him meant being responsible, but I see now, it doesn't. I need to focus on what I can control, our life, our family, our future. I smiled gently, feeling a weight lift from both of us. Exactly. And you're not alone in this. We face these challenges together. Always. The rest of the day passed quietly, but I could sense a subtle shift in Emma's demeanor. She was calmer, more thoughtful, less reactive. She even spoke about future plans, our next vacation, possible home improvements, even considering adopting a dog. Small things, but signs that her mind was returning to the life we had built together, rather than being consumed by the shadows of her past. That evening, we decided to take a walk through our neighborhood. The streets were quiet, the last traces of sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air was crisp, carrying the faint smell of fallen leaves and distant fireplaces. I could feel Emma's hand in mine, warm and familiar, a reminder of why we were together. Thank you, she said quietly, for being honest with me, even when it was hard. I squeezed her hand. I love you, Emma. That's why I have to be honest. I can't protect you from the world if I'm not honest with you. She smiled faintly. I know. I think I needed someone to shake me awake. And now? I asked. Now, she said, looking up at me. I think I'm ready to face reality. Not through fear or guilt, but through understanding. I want to help, yes, but the right way. Without losing myself, or us. I felt a swell of relief. The tension that had been suffocating our home for weeks was finally easing. I knew we still had challenges ahead. Her ex's struggles weren't going away overnight, and there were bound to be more emotional tests. But for the first time, I felt confident that we could navigate them together, with honesty, love, and clear boundaries. That night, as we settled into bed, I watched her sleep for a moment, her face serene, untroubled by the guilt and panic that had plagued her days before. I knew that confronting her with my thoughts had been a risk. It could have pushed her away, triggered anger, or caused more panic. But instead, it had grounded her. It had given her perspective. And that perspective was exactly what we needed to protect our marriage, while still allowing her to show compassion responsibly. Because empathy alone wasn't enough. Wisdom, boundaries, and courage were what truly saved relationships. And I knew that, with her hand in mine, we were finally ready to face whatever came next. Just when I thought the worst was behind us, reality decided to prove me wrong. The calm that followed our conversation felt fragile, like thin glass ready to shatter at the slightest touch. Emma seemed lighter, more present, but something about her silence made me uneasy. She wasn't panicking anymore, but she also wasn't fully at peace. It was as if her mind was quietly connecting dots she had avoided for years. The unraveling began on a Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home when I heard the front door open earlier than usual. Emma's footsteps were rushed, uneven. She didn't call out my name like she normally did. Instead, I heard the unmistakable sound of keys dropping onto the kitchen counter, followed by a sharp inhale, almost a gasp. I walked out of my office and found her standing in the kitchen, pale, staring at her phone like it had just delivered a death sentence. "Emma," I said carefully. "What happened?" She didn't answer. I stepped closer. Her hands were trembling. "Emma," I repeated, firmer this time. She looked up at me, eyes wide with fear. "He called me." My chest tightened instantly. "Your ex?" She nodded. "He didn't just ask for help," she whispered. "He told me everything." I guided her to a chair and sat across from her. "Everything about what?" Her lips parted, then closed again, like she was struggling to let the words out. Finally, she spoke. "His family is completely broke. Not struggling, ruined. They've been hiding it. His mother's house is about to be foreclosed. His sister is drowning in debt. And he," her voice cracked, "he used my name." I felt a jolt run through me. "Used your name how?" She swallowed hard. "He told lenders that I might co-sign. That I'd help. That we were still close." A cold anger settled in my chest. "So he leveraged your past to buy time," I said slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "And when I told him I couldn't do that, he panicked. He said if I didn't step in, his whole family would collapse." I leaned back, exhaling sharply. This was no longer emotional confusion. This was manipulation. "And that's when it hit me," Emma continued, tears spilling freely now. "He doesn't see me as a person. He sees me as an escape." I reached across the table and took her shaking hands. "Emma, this is exactly what I was trying to help you see." "I know," she cried. "And that's why I'm scared. Because part of me still feels guilty." "That guilt isn't yours to carry," I said firmly. "It never was." She wiped her face, but her breathing remained uneven. "There's more." My stomach tightened. "Go on." She hesitated. "My parents, they knew." I froze. "They knew what?" "About his family. About the debts. About the bankruptcy. They warned me years ago, before I even met you, to stay away from him. They said his family had a pattern, borrowing, hiding, collapsing, and then leaning on others." I felt my jaw tighten. "And you never told me." "I didn't want to admit they were right," she said quietly. "I didn't want to believe that I'd almost destroyed my life back then." Silence filled the kitchen. Everything suddenly made sense. Her panic, her overreaction, her instinct to sacrifice herself. This wasn't just about him. It was about proving something to herself. "Emma," I said carefully, "look at me." She raised her eyes. "You are not responsible for fixing broken families," I said. "Especially families that survive by dragging others down with them." Her breath hitched. "I know that now. But when he said my name, when he made it sound like I was his last hope." I panicked. I thought if I didn't help, I'd be the reason his family collapsed. I shook my head. "No, the collapse started long before you. You were never the foundation, just the safety net they expected to use." That realization hit her hard. Her shoulders shook as she covered her face. "I almost destroyed us," she sobbed. "I almost chose divorce because I was afraid to face the truth." I stood and wrapped my arms around her, holding her tightly as she cried. "You didn't destroy us. You stopped before it was too late." But the panic wasn't over. That evening, her ex sent another message, long, desperate, and revealing. He admitted everything. The loans, the lies, the expectations placed on Emma because she had escaped and built a stable life. Emma handed me the phone silently. I read it slowly, carefully. He didn't ask. He assumed. She owes us, one line read. That was the moment Emma broke completely. I don't owe them my marriage, she said through tears. I don't owe them my peace. I don't owe them you. No, I agreed. You don't. The truth was finally out in the open. Her ex wasn't just bankrupt financially. His entire family structure was built on denial, entitlement, and emotional pressure. And Emma had been conditioned, long before she met me, to believe that love meant sacrifice, even self-destruction. That night, she barely slept. She paced the bedroom, replaying conversations from years ago, realizing how close she had come to repeating a cycle she had escaped. Near dawn, she sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, I'm done running. I sat up. What do you mean? I'm done letting guilt control me, she said. And I'm done letting the past threaten our future. She sent one final message to her ex, short, calm, and firm. She wished him well. She refused financial involvement. She made it clear she was married, committed, and unavailable. Then she blocked his number. The panic didn't vanish instantly, but something stronger replaced it. Clarity. As the sun rose, casting soft light through our bedroom window, Emma leaned against me and said something I'll never forget. I almost lost everything because I was afraid to admit the truth. But now that I see it, I'm not afraid anymore. I kissed her forehead. That's what growth feels like. Painful but freeing. The truth had unfolded, and it wasn't pretty. But it was real. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I knew something for certain. Our marriage had survived the storm not because of luck, but because we faced the truth before it was too late. Still, consequences were coming. Families don't collapse quietly. And people who lose their leverage don't always walk away peacefully. The panic may have settled, but the aftermath was just beginning. Blocking his number should have been the end of it. But people who lose control rarely accept silence. 3 days after Emma cut off contact, the past came knocking, literally. It was a Saturday morning. The sky outside was gray, heavy with clouds, the kind that pressed down on your chest before rain ever fell. Emma was in the kitchen making coffee, trying to reclaim normalcy, when the doorbell rang. Once. Then again. Insistent. Demanding. We exchanged a look. I'm not expecting anyone, I said. Emma's face drained of color. I think I know who that is. My jaw tightened. Stay here. I walked to the door and opened it. He stood there, older than the photos Emma had shown me years ago, thinner, worn down by stress and desperation. His eyes darted past me, searching for her. Is she home? He asked, voice strained. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You don't get to show up like this, I said calmly. He scoffed. You don't understand. This is family business. No, I replied. This is trespassing. That's when Emma opened the door behind me. I told you not to come, she said, her voice shaking, but steady. He turned to her, eyes red. You can't just abandon us, Emma. My mom is losing her house. My sister. Stop, she said sharply. That single word stunned all of us. I'm not abandoning anyone, she continued. I'm refusing to be used. He laughed bitterly. Used? You're the only one who made it out. You have money, stability, a house. And that means I owe you my marriage, she snapped. The silence that followed was suffocating. I had never seen Emma like this. No guilt, no hesitation. Just truth. You told lenders I'd co-sign loans, she continued. You used my name without my permission. You didn't ask for help, you assumed it. He looked away. That's what people do when they're desperate, he muttered. No, I said. That's what people do when they feel entitled. His eyes flashed with anger as he finally looked at me. You don't know what it's like to grow up with nothing. And you don't know what it's like to build something without destroying others, I replied. Emma stepped forward. I loved you once, she said quietly. But love doesn't mean sacrificing everything for someone who refuses to change. His voice cracked. So that's it? You choose him over family? She shook her head slowly. I choose myself. And my husband. That word, husband, hit him harder than anything else. His shoulders slumped. The fight drained from him. I never wanted this, he whispered. Emma's eyes softened, but her resolve didn't. Neither did I. But your family's survival cannot depend on my collapse. For a moment, I thought he might argue again. Instead, he turned away. As he walked down our driveway, I saw something shift in Emma. Not relief, not victory, but closure. The door closed behind us. She exhaled deeply, like someone who had been holding their breath for years. Later that afternoon, the next confrontation arrived. Her parents. They had heard, About the ex showing up, about the tension, about the near divorce. Concern brought them over, but so did unfinished truths. We sat in the living room, coffee untouched. I should have told you sooner, Emma said to them. I hid things because I didn't want to face them. Her mother sighed. We warned you because we saw the pattern. Her father nodded. That family has always survived by leaning on others until there's nothing left to lean on. Emma looked down. I thought if I helped, I could rewrite the ending. And instead, her mother said gently, you almost repeated it. Emma's voice cracked. I almost lost my marriage. Her father turned to me. Thank you for standing your ground. I nodded. I wasn't fighting him. I was fighting the cycle. That night, after everyone left, Emma broke down again. But this time it was different. Not panic. Release. I need to confess something, she said quietly. I sat beside her. What is it? When I said I wanted a divorce, she swallowed hard. Part of me was scared you'd leave once you saw how broken my past was. My heart clenched. I thought if I left first, it would hurt less. I took her hands. Emma, I married you knowing you weren't perfect. I didn't marry your past. I married your present and your future. Tears streamed down her face. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do, I said firmly. Because you chose to face the truth. She leaned into me, shaking. That night, something fundamental shifted between us. No secrets. No guilt. No running. Just honesty. But the final confession hadn't come yet. 2 days later, Emma received a call from her mother. Her ex's family had finally filed for foreclosure protection. No more pretending. No more leverage. No more emotional blackmail. Emma sat quietly after hanging up, then said softly, I feel sad. That's normal, I said. Sad doesn't mean wrong. She nodded. But I don't feel responsible anymore. And that was the difference. The confrontation had stripped everything bare. Her guilt, his manipulation, the family's collapse, and the truth she had avoided for years. Our marriage didn't survive because the danger disappeared. It survived because Emma stopped sacrificing herself to save others. As we sat together that evening, the house quiet, rain finally tapping against the windows, Emma whispered something that marked the end of this chapter. I don't want to live a life where love feels like punishment. I kissed her forehead. Then we won't. The storm had passed. But what remained, clarity, commitment, and hard-earned strength, would define everything that came next. The house felt different after the storm passed. Not quieter, just clearer. For the first time in weeks, Emma woke up without reaching for her phone in panic. No anxious checking. No dread. No invisible weight pressing against her chest. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains, gentle and warm, and when she turned toward me, her expression wasn't guarded. It was calm. That alone told me we had crossed the hardest part. We spent that morning doing something ordinary, grocery shopping. No heavy conversations. No emotional landmines. Just walking side by side through the aisles, debating brands, laughing when we both reached for the same carton of eggs. Normal. And normal had never felt so powerful. Back home, as she unpacked the groceries, Emma paused, holding a simple framed photo of us from years ago, before marriage, before the house, before the chaos. I almost forgot who I was, she said quietly. I looked up. What do you mean? She set the photo down carefully. I spent so long trying to save everyone else that I forgot I was allowed to be happy. I thought strength meant sacrifice. I was wrong. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her. Strength is knowing what you're willing to lose, and what you refuse to. She nodded. And I refused to lose us. That decision changed everything. In the days that followed, Emma took deliberate steps forward. Not dramatic ones, but meaningful ones. She scheduled a therapy appointment to unpack the guilt she'd carried since her early 20s. She opened up to me fully about her past, without fear I'd judge or leave. And most importantly, she stopped explaining herself to people who benefited from her silence. Her ex didn't try to contact her again. When manipulation stops working, manipulators move on. One evening, while sitting on the porch watching the sun dip behind the trees, Emma spoke words that sealed the chapter behind us. I don't hate him, she said. But I don't miss him either. That's called closure, I replied. She smiled softly. It feels light. Her family situation stabilized too, not because Emma stepped in, but because reality finally forced accountability. Foreclosure protection, debt restructuring, outside help. Messy, painful, necessary. Emma learned something crucial. People don't grow when someone else absorbs the consequences for them. And neither do marriages. Weeks passed. The tension in our home dissolved, replaced by something deeper than peace. Trust renewed by truth. The kind you don't get from easy times, but from surviving hard ones without lying to each other. One night, as we sat in bed, Emma turned to me and asked, "Were you ever afraid I'd choose him?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." Her eyes filled. "Why didn't you say that?" "Because fear doesn't guide decisions," I said. "Truth does." And the truth was, you needed clarity, not pressure. She reached for my hand. "You saved me from myself." I shook my head. "No, you chose yourself. I just refused to let you destroy your future out of guilt." That distinction mattered. Months later, we hosted a small gathering, friends' laughter, music playing softly through the house. Someone joked about how solid we seemed as a couple, how lucky we were. Emma caught my eye across the room. Luck had nothing to do with it. Later that night, after everyone left, Emma sat beside me on the couch and rested her head on my shoulder. "I used to think love meant enduring pain," she said. "Now I know it means choosing peace, even when it's hard." I kissed her hair. "Especially when it's hard." She smiled. "I'm proud of us." So was I. Because our marriage didn't survive due to control, guilt, or sacrifice. It survived because we made a choice. A choice to confront the truth. A choice to stop running. A choice to protect what mattered. Emma no longer panicked at the sound of her phone. No longer felt responsible for saving broken people. No longer believed love meant losing herself. And me? I learned that love isn't about fixing someone. It's about standing firm when they're tempted to disappear. That's how we moved forward. Not by erasing the past, but by refusing to let it decide our future. The story didn't end with revenge, or humiliation, or dramatic collapse. It ended with something far rarer. Growth. And that, in the end, was the most powerful outcome of all.